Welcome to the Slam and Jam here on the Athletic NBA Show. I'm your host, Andrew Schlecht. You can go to theathletic.com/NBA show and get The Athletic for a discounted rate. Go do that today. Also, it would be super cool if you'd leave us a 5-star review. We're going to read some 5-star reviews at the end of this show because lots of you have been very kind to us in the season of giving. So you could do that. If you'd like to give something to us, it would be a 5-star review. With me, as always, is my good friend Alex Spearson. Alex, tell us what happened in the NBA this week.
Well, Andrew, it all began last Friday night with a matchup between the number 1 and number 2 seeds in the Eastern Conference, the Boston Celtics and the Orlando Magic. That's right, folks. The hottest team in the league is the Orlando Magic, who are currently on an 8-game winning streak and sit at 13-5 overall. One of those wins was Friday night against Boston, a 113-96 victory that saw the other Wagner brother, Mo, put up a game-high 27 points to lead the Magic to the win. The Magic have been rolling despite missing starting center Wendell Carter Jr. Paulo, balling. Franz, balling. Suggs, guess what he's doing, Andrew?
Balling!
He's balling. Up next, a showdown with the Wizards. Okay, maybe not a huge game, but in 2 weeks, they have a 5-game stretch against Cleveland, Boston, Miami, and Milwaukee.
Ooh.
Very juicy. Also on Friday, the NBA announced it was looking into allegations that Oklahoma City's Josh Giddey had an inappropriate relationship with a minor, an investigation that began following a viral tweet on Thanksgiving of videos and pictures of Giddey with a girl. The Newport Police Department has also opened a police inquiry. Findings from these investigations have not yet been reported as of Friday morning. On Saturday, the new look Clippers got their best win of the season up to that point with a 107-88 beatdown of the Dallas Mavericks. The Clippers had one of those box scores where you know the numbers must add up to 107 because that's what it says they scored, but it sure doesn't look like it. James Harden only had 8, 4, and 7. Kawhi only had 8, but somehow it all added up to 107. The Mavericks, meanwhile, got 56 combined from Luka and Kyrie, but only 32 points from the rest of the roster. Later in the week, it was announced that Mark Cuban had sold a majority ownership stake in the Mavericks while still remaining in charge of basketball operations. The assumption is that Cuban is positioning himself for a future casino/hotel/sports arena in the Dallas metro area. On Sunday, it came down to the wire in Madison Square Garden with the Knicks and Suns tied at 113 in the final seconds. The Suns were once again missing stars, this time Bradley Beal and Kevin Durant, but didn't matter because with 1.7 seconds left, Devin Booker hit a 3 from the right wing to give the Suns their 7th straight victory. Phoenix would go on to lose their next game to Toronto, but after a successful week, currently sit at 11-7, 5th in the West. And their next game, a Friday night game on ESPN against the Denver Nuggets. On Monday, it was the most anticipated game of the season for a very specific type of person. On one side, we had the Detroit Pistons, a roster constructed to mimic the feeling of constipation, stagnant, cramped, uncomfortable. On the other side, the Washington Wizards, a roster constructed to mimic the feeling of diarrhea, loose, out of control, cannot get stops. The Pistons came into the game on a 13-game losing streak. The Wizards were on a 9-game losing streak. If that wasn't embarrassing enough, what if I told you that one of those teams lost by 19? That's right, the Pistons lost their 14th game in a row, 126-107. Detroit would go on to lose to the Lakers and Knicks, taking their losing streak to 16, which is a franchise record. Next up, 2 home games against the Cavs and Grizzlies. Okay, maybe. With an expectation that Bojan Bogdanovic will return to the lineup soon. Good luck, Pistons fans.
Shout out
on
diarrhea.
Tuesday. Shout out diarrhea. On Tuesday, it was Game 8 of the Western Conference first-round series between the Golden State Warriors and Sacramento Kings in the Golden One Center. The game was part of the in-season tournament, and the Kings needed a win or a loss by fewer than 12 points to advance. And early on, it was not looking good. The Kings got down by as much as 24 and were down 17 at half before slowly climbing back into the game, finally pulling ahead with 5:46 left. The game would come down to the Kings' final shot, a really awkward mid-range fadeaway from Malik Monk with 7 seconds left to put the Kings ahead for the final time, 124-123. The Kings sit at 10-7, 6th in the West. On Wednesday, it was time for the Nuggets to get revenge. The Houston Rockets had beaten the Nuggets twice already this season, including a 105-86 blowout in Houston. This time, the game was back in Denver, and back for Denver was Jamal Murray, returning after an 11-game absence. The Nuggets got up big early and kept the Rockets at arm's length the rest of the night, winning 134-124. Nikola Jokic had a triple-double, putting up 32, 10, and 15. For the Rockets, it wasn't all bad news. Jalen Green kept the Nuggets in the game after half, scoring 18 points in the third quarter. Next up for the 8-8 Rockets is a road game against the Lakers, a game that will decide whether they went 5-5 in that tough 10-game stretch I described a few weeks ago. And finally, on Thursday night, the Miami Heat put up 142 on the Pacers, including 45 points in the fourth quarter. Jimmy Butler scored 36, while rookie Jaime Jaquez Jr. scored a career-high 24 points, including 14 in the fourth. The win has the Heat at 11-8, sixth in the East. For the Pacers, Tyrese Halliburton scored a career-high 44 in the game, but it was Indiana's trademark defense, or lack thereof, that did them in. Through 16 games, Pacers opponents have scored more than 120 10 different times, including now 3 games topping 140 points. The Pacers are 9-8 and find themselves in the play-in in the 7th spot. What a week it was, Andrew.
What a week indeed. I have more on the Pacers here in a little bit.
Ooh,
I think
me
you do too. We're talking a lot about the Pacers today, but I wanted to talk about we're almost 20 games in. I think by the time the weekend's over, we'll be 20 games in, and it's time to start looking at some 5-man lineups. And so I have 3 5-man lineups that are really working and 3 that are not working very well at all. So first one, let's start with a surprise. It's the Houston Rockets. Their starting lineup has actually played the most minutes of any lineup in the NBA so far this season. 248 minutes to be exact. They're a plus 11 net rating. 115 offense, 104 defense, which is really good. It's Van Vliet, Dylan Brooks, Jalen Green, Jabari Smith, and Alperen Şengün. Just for a little comparison, the 2 lineups that played the most for Houston last season were a -9 and a -11. So this is a big improvement for the Houston Rockets. So shout out to Houston. The next one is the lineup that is the most dominant in the league right now. It's the Boston Celtics. Drew Holiday, Derek White, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and the Zinger are a plus 27. They're a 123 offense, 96
Lord.
defense. It's insane. So the best lineups over the last 4 years, I thought, like, okay, like plus 27 seems insane. Yeah. Let's go back over the last 4 years and see just how insane it is. Last season, the best 5-man lineup that played significant minutes was the Chicago Bulls. This is like maybe like the top 50 most played lineups. Chicago Bulls were actually the one, plus 14.7, with DeMar DeRozan, Pat Bev, Caruso, Levine, and Vooch.
That is kind of wild.
That it was the lineup, given what's going on currently.
Yeah, because like and like all their lineups right now are so bad. Like like player Vooch with anybody, and it's really bad. But like the conversations are like, oh yeah, like they should have known last season that like that this was never ever going to work. It's like, well, actually, like,
true.
Lineup kind of worked, and it's with Pat Bev, and like clearly, like there's something there with these like point of attack defenders, along with DeMar DeRozan and Levine and Vooch. Like you need those guys there. But also maybe that was just a one season thing, because it's been really bad so far.
And maybe they just needed to unleash Alex Caruso the entire time.
I mean, maybe
as we saw last night.
Yeah, no kidding. In the season before, in the 21-22 season, the team with the best net rating for a 5-man lineup was the Boston Celtics. Again, Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, Tatum, Horford, and Rob Williams were plus 24.6 on the season.
What was
played lineups?
You may be getting to it, but what was like the KD Warriors?
I didn't go back that far. Oh, okay. I just wanted to go. I honestly wanted to go back in just recent history, just because the offenses have changed so much with like how they are right now, that it's even hard to compare what teams used to be. because like the margins were just so much smaller. And so I really just wanted to go back a few years. But you could check it out while I'm reading this next one, which is from 2020, 2021. It's the Utah Jazz with Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, Royce O'Neal, Bogdanovich, and Joe Ingles. They were plus 19 in the 2021 season. Very, very good. And then the 1920 season, this is also another one I would not have predicted, but one of the best 50 most played lineups. Plus 18 is the New Orleans Pelicans. Drew Holiday, Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, Zion Williamson, and Derek Favors was
wow.
best net rating for a 5-man group in the 1920 season that had like the top 50 most played lineups. So did you find
yes. Now this is Cleaning the Glass, so it might be slightly different. But yeah, the starting lineup, which had Zaza Pachulia in it, plus 23.5.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Yeah. The Celtics are plus 27. It's crazy. Okay. Last lineup that is working, which I find very interesting, in 148 minutes together. It's the Los Angeles Clippers. James Harden, Terrence Mann, Paul George, Kawhi, and Zubats. Plus 21.5 in their minutes.
Interesting. Yeah, well, I mean, they finally split up Harden and Russ.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, although, I was watching the game last night, and they're still closing with both of those guys.
I know. Well, there's more on that here.
Okay.
So that lineup, 122 offensive rating, 100 defense. Like, that's very, very good. If you look back when they started the season with Westbrook starting and Covington in the lineup instead of Terrence Mann, in 51 minutes, they were plus 38. Like, very, very good. Like, they were just
small sample, though. So small.
It's small, but it still was good. It still was good. But when you put Westbrook and Harden in there with Paul George, Kawhi, and Zubats so far this season, minus 22.6.
Yeah.
Their defense is fine. It's at a 110. It's like, okay, like that's not good, but teams can manage with a 110 defense right now. Offensive rating, 86 points or 87.6.
Yeah.
Is their offensive rating. It's the bottom of the barrel. I mean, the worst offense in the NBA right now is a 105. That's the worst one. It's the Portland Trail Blazers. Worst offense in the league, 105. And they're 87.6.
I will say, watching the game last night against the Warriors, at the end of the game, there were like if Paul George hits like 2 of these threes that he could very well normally make, like they would have looked a lot better. Like I actually enjoyed some of the like Westbrook crashing the offensive boards and then immediately kicking out to a shooter.
Sure.
But in general, yes, it has not worked. Maybe it'll eventually work, but it doesn't seem like it's working.
Well, there's only one lineup that has played at least 100 minutes with an offensive rating below 100 so far besides this lineup, and it is the New York Knicks. So we're moving on to the three lineups that are not working. In 104 minutes, Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, Quentin Grimes, Julius Randle, and Mitchell Robinson are a minus 11.4. It's not great. And what's really weird, this doesn't mean anything except for it's just really weird. In exactly 104 minutes, so both these lineups have both played 104 minutes. With Quickly, DiVincenzo, Hart, Barrett, and Hartenstein, they're a plus 11. So 104 minutes. That first lineup I mentioned was minus 11. In 104 minutes, this other Knicks lineup is plus 11. Found it to be very weird. Doesn't mean much.
I wonder,
really, but it's
I have a feeling, is that first one being weighed down by Julius Randle early season?
I mean, for sure, it is.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. But the symmetry there was a little
hard to ignore.
It's hard to ignore. I'm obsessed with it. Honestly,
he loves numerology, folks.
It's true. Another one, they talked about this on the Tampering podcast yesterday, but it's the Golden State Warriors. In 103 minutes, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Andrew Wiggins, Draymond Green, Kevon Looney are a minus 10.6. 122 defensive rating, which is like the staggering part of it. It's like they can't stop anybody. And they're 111 on offense, which is just kind of like normal bad. Like, it's just not very good. In fact, Alex, we know how bad the Pistons are. It's well documented. The entire world was watching as the Pistons just wet the bed, or maybe just they were constipated beyond
They were
belief
stopped up.
this week, just totally stopped up. But their starting lineup is actually a little bit better than the Warriors starting lineup so far this season at a minus 10.1 and the Warriors at a minus 10.6. Like, that's bad. I feel like it just has to correct itself. I just think that this is like, they're unsustainably bad as a starting lineup. And you would just think that like Wiggins will get better, although he slammed his finger in the door.
Yes, missed a game.
He missed a game. Clay, I think, will get better. I mean, I just have to believe that they will. I don't know that they're going to be great. Like, they were just pummeling teams last year. But to be worse, for their starters to be worse than the Pistons starters just feels like unimaginable.
That's the one where even with it's obviously a super small sample. That's the one where I am just a little bit worried because I just need to see it more from Wiggins, see it more from Clay.
Yeah.
And, last night Wiggins wasn't there. And I really like what they have off the bench with some of these guys.
Yeah.
And I think at some point you're just going to have to give them more minutes, like Podziemski and Moses Moody, because they're good.
Yeah. They're good players. Yeah, maybe they do need a change somewhere. All right, last one. I mentioned the Indiana Pacers at the start of this. The Pacers in 135 minutes with Halliburton, Mathurin, Bruce Brown, Obi Toppin, and Miles Turner are a minus 2.5. Defensive rating of 120, offensive rating of 118. It's not very good. But all you have to do is take out Ben Mathurin and put in Buddy Hield, and you're just cooking with gasoline here. Plus 25.4 when you make that switch. 138 offense and a respectable 113 defense when you make that switch so far this season. I thought, like, boy, I mean, that is quite an exchange, because a lot of times it's like, oh, you change like one or two players or even like three players surrounding like some of the stars and things change pretty significantly. It's just providing like the floor spacing of Buddy Hield just like completely unlocks everything for this Pacers team.
Yeah, I maybe buy the offensive side. I do not buy that adding Buddy Hield makes them like a really solid defensive unit.
But yeah. It's and maybe it's just like Mathurin's still learning the league,
Yeah.
Still his second season. And Buddy Hield is never going to be like some lockdown defender, but he's been in the league for a long time. Like, he at least knows like positionally where he needs to be. He's never going to be good or a stopper. I mean, he's definitely the worst defender of that bunch. But I don't know. It's working. It's working with Buddy Hield, not working so much with Ben Mathurin. And and maybe the destiny of Ben Mathurin is to be their sixth man, because that was always the kind of guy that he profiled to be a little bit. Like, with the ball in his hand, somebody that can get downhill, get to the free throw line, get buckets on his own. I'm not saying that like that has to be where he's headed, but like so far this season, it's pretty clear that their starting lineup's better with just a pure floor spacer at the two.
Well, Andrew, I'm going to continue the Pacers talk because I mentioned them earlier. You just talked about them. They've been a league pass favorite for many people, and for good reason. They have an incredible high-powered offense led by Tyrese Halliburton, who's very fun. And they also have an incredible low-powered defense that lets other teams routinely turn into the 2017 Warriors on random weeknights. And as it turns out, that's a great recipe for entertaining television.
Yeah.
They've already played one of the games of the year, that 157 to 152 game with the Hawks in the in-season tournament, a game that did not go into overtime, 309 points in regulation.
It's insane.
The difference between their offense and defense is what I'm so fascinated by, because currently, per Cleaning the Glass, who filters out garbage time, the Pacers have the number one offense in the league and the 29th ranked defense. But due to the recent offensive explosion across the league, saying that it's the number one offense, 29th ranked defense doesn't really do the Pacers justice. Technically, we are talking about the most efficient offense in the history of the NBA and the second worst defense the game has ever seen. And the only thing preventing the Pacers from holding both titles, best offense of all time and worst defense of all time, are those damn Washington Wizards, who currently have the worst defense in the league, giving up over 123 points per 100 possessions, which is somehow over a full point per 100 possessions worse than the Pacers.
Oh,
That in and of itself is kind of impressive.
yeah.
But it does feel like we're watching something extremely unique when it comes to these Pacers. But are we? Have there been teams that have been truly elite in one phase of the game while being hilariously inept in the other phase? To find this out, I went back in time. Using Cleaning the Glass, I went back 20 years, as far as their database will go, to find out more about what I'll call extreme teams. Extreme teams. Teams that go all in on one end of the floor while pretending that the other end of the floor does not exist. Now, I started broad. I looked for teams that finished top 5 in one phase of the game, bottom 5 in the other phase. There were 15 extreme teams in total since the 03-04 season. And some of the extreme teams you're going to remember. The 2017-18 Cavs, LeBron's final year in Cleveland. The 08-09 Suns, which was Shaq's only full season in Phoenix when he actually made the All-Star game as a 36-year-old.
Yep.
You got the 06-07 Wizards, which was Gilbert Arenas' final All-Star season. And you also had the 03-04 Mavs, which was Nash's final season in Dallas. So some very memorable teams. In fact, all of those that I mentioned were the final important year for those players on that team.
Yeah.
Now, if there's a team that best exemplified what it means to be an extreme team, it would have to be the early 2000s Seattle Supersonics. Seattle finished with a top 3 offense and a bottom 5 defense in 3 consecutive seasons from 2004 to 2006. Ray Allen, Rashard Lewis, Vladimir Radmanovich. Those teams knew how they wanted to play the game of basketball, and it did not involve one end of the court. If you remember any of those Sonics teams, you'll remember that they weren't all bad. The 04-05 Sonics won 52 games and made it to the second round of the playoffs while being an extreme team. And that's the thing about being extreme. It doesn't really cap your regular season ceiling. 4 of the 15 extreme teams in the last 20 seasons won at least 50 games. Another was at 47, another at 48. 50 wins is totally doable, even when you're only playing on one side of the court most nights. If anything, being an extreme team guarantees you a pretty comfortable floor in the regular season because no extreme team has ever won fewer than 35 games. It guarantees you a certain level of competence. In fact, 11 of the 15 extreme teams in the last 20 seasons made the playoffs. Success in the playoffs, however, is another story. Only 2 of those 11 made it beyond the first round. The first was the 04-05 Sonics that I mentioned earlier. They lost to the eventual champion Spurs in 6 in the 2005 playoffs. And then you had the 17-18 Cavs, who had LeBron James, lost in the finals to the Warriors. So unless you have one of the greatest players of all time, you kind of have to keep your expectations in check with these teams. But hey, at least you'll likely make the playoffs. What Indiana is doing, though, is unique even among this group. I mean, we're talking top 1 offense and bottom 2 defense. The only extreme team that came close to that was the 2020-2021 Portland Trailblazers, who had the second-ranked offense and 29th ranked defense. This was the post-COVID team. They made it to the playoffs. They were actually 42-30, which works out to about a 48-win team, because that was like the 72-game season.
Yep.
They had that really entertaining 6-game series against the Nuggets. That series was tied 2-2. And I can fondly remember being at a bar here in Portland and watching Game 5, which was a 147-140 double overtime Nuggets win. Just like an incredible game.
Yeah.
And so, maybe that's the destiny of this Pacers team. Really fun team led by an elite point guard, playoff team who pushes a better team with a couple memorable games. I'd say that would be a successful season for the Pacers this year. But Andrew, what would really turn this Pacers season up a few notches, really get me going, is if those goofy-ass Wizards can play a little defense for a couple months. And that way, the Pacers can claim the title of greatest offense of all time and worst defense of all time in the same season. Because, folks, it does not get more extreme than that. That would be the ultimate extreme team. So go Pacers and go Wizards defense.
Go Wizards. I have a belief that the Wizards can do this. I think we can get there. Washington.
You've gone from believing they could win 35 games to now believing they can be the second worst defense.
Yeah. I just love this Wizards team for all the wrong reasons, probably. Some team that I love for all the right reasons is the Denver Nuggets. We're going to talk to Adam Mares right after this break.
All right, Andrew, it is time for the Wheel of Fandom, our weekly segment where we spin a wheel, it lands on a team, and we become fans of that team for the next week or the next 2 weeks. Because 2 weeks ago, the wheel landed on the Denver Nuggets. At that time, the Nuggets were 9-2, but they were heading off on a 5-game road trip that saw them come back to Denver 10-6. The 1-4 road trip included losses to New Orleans, Cleveland, Orlando, and Houston. The one win was against Detroit, a game in which both Michael Malone and Nikola Jokic were ejected early in the game. Week number 2 was much more kind to the Nuggets as they are currently on a 3-game winning streak. The most recent game, a 134-124 win over Houston, saw the return of Jamal Murray. The Nuggets are now 13-6 with the 10th ranked offense and 14th ranked defense per Cleaning the Glass. Andrew, if the Nuggets are our favorite team, who is our guest?
It's our guy, Adam Mares. He's the head of content at DNVR Sports, host of the Locked On Nuggets podcast, and host of an all-new All-City NBA podcast with Tim Legler. Adam, what's up, man?
What's up, fellas? It was funny how you opened that out with you became a fan of the Nuggets right when they went on this losing streak. So,
I know. It was an interesting
timing.
2 weeks.
That's a weird 2 weeks for the Nuggets.
Yeah.
Well, Adam, we got to see a wide range of Nuggets basketball over these past 2 weeks. What was more entertaining, the Jokic Malone ejection from the game in Detroit or the Reggie Drummond time machine game in LA?
I mean, this one's easy, even though those ejections were pretty hilarious. Like, if you're going to get ejected, it should be funny, and both of them were. But you have to go with Reggie Jackson, man. And I almost feel bad for DeAndre Jordan that Reggie Jackson played so well that it stole the thunder, because we've seen Reggie Jackson play well over the last 5 years. You know, he's had his moments. To go and do that against his old team was special. And it wasn't just that he had a good game. It was the way in which he had a good game. I mean, outplaying Harden, Paul George, Kawhi, all those guys. But it did overshadow DeAndre Jordan, who I didn't think could play a good basketball game. And he was the second best player on the court in that game. So that game to me is one of my all-time favorite regular season games. So it has to take the cake.
So the Nuggets start off the season. They're dominant. 8-1. Offense is humming. Defense looks really good. Did that recent 1-4 road stretch reveal anything to you about this team other than that they really needed Jamal Murray? Was there anything else revealed during that stretch?
It's tough to say. I mean, what happened when you took Jamal Murray out of the rotation is you lost the identity of the non-Jokic minutes. Typically, the non-Jokic minutes, as few as there are, Jamal Murray anchors that. And then you could put young players around him. You could put Christian Brown, Julian Strawther, Peyton Watson. You could put these young guys who we know are limited and are growing in their offensive talent, but are very raw. And you could say, okay, they just need to do the hustle things. If you take Jamal Murray out of that equation, all of a sudden it's like, well, now we need you to also be a good ball handler and a good shooter and a good scorer, because if you don't do those things, there's nobody to kind of to save you. So we learned that those guys are not ready to step up and take on that role. But I don't know if we learned that. We kind of anticipated that would be the case. And then the last thing I'll say is Denver went out on the road and played good teams. If you look at that, they didn't have a bad loss. You know, the Cavs are maybe the worst team that they played on that road trip, and the Cavs are pretty good. So they lost to a bunch of teams that have been very good at home. It's discouraging if you're Denver, who has championship aspirations, but at the same time, I think it's just a November lesson.
Yeah.
So one of the big stories coming into this year was Peyton Watson, who looked good in Summer League, was tabbed as one of the guys that could help fill Bruce Brown's shoes. It's obviously been an up and down start to the season, but what have been your impressions of Watson so far and the areas that he'll need to develop in to make the kind of impact that we were hoping to see?
So he has tremendous defensive upside. He reminds you of a player like a Jaden McDaniels or a Herb Jones, just in terms of body type, length, and the spectacular plays that he makes on the defensive end. All of those guys will make blocks that you didn't see coming, get steals, or shut down players that are above their weight class. You know, you'll see him go up against one of the heavy hitting scorers and lock him up a possession or two, and you'll say, oh, wow, that looked like something not everybody can do. His feel for the game, he still has a long way to go on that. His offensive game right now is very robust. There's a lot of talent there, but it's not very consistent. Sometimes the footwork is weird. Sometimes the shooting mechanics are weird. But for me, the thing that gives me hope about Peyton Watson over the stretch, and when you were asking me about how do I feel about it, it was a necessary, the losing streak to me was a necessary stumbling block for a young group of players that needed to realize, oh, we actually have a long way to go. And our flaws are disguised by the great players in front of us. But now that they're out in the open, it's like, okay, here's what we are. And Peyton Watson, to me, is a guy that needs to play hard when he's on the court at all times. That's what he brings to the table. First and foremost, if he brings nothing else, just be a guy that outworks your opponent and wears them down. I think he learned that. And now going in, the last handful of games, he's brought it every single night. So I think for me, he's over a hump where it's like, oh, I know what my role is on this team now. I got to execute that every game.
So thinking beyond Watson, a lot of the talk this summer was, how do the Nuggets replace the playoff minutes for Bruce Brown and to a lesser extent, Jeff Green? How confident are you on December 1st that the Nuggets have the pieces on the roster to adequately fill those minutes come playoff time? Or do you think a trade will eventually be needed?
So I think that they have it in terms of volume of players, but I don't know if they have it in positions. If you look at Reggie Jackson's game, I know it's one game, but that game in the Clippers, Bruce never had a game like that in the regular season. That was a peak that was beyond even what Bruce brought to the team. Now, is Reggie going to do that consistently? I don't know. We'll find out. He's having a great year, by the way. It's under the radar how Reggie Jackson is having a bounce back year, probably his best year in 3 seasons. And this is after when he got traded to Denver last year, he was given the spot in the rotation and then lost it because he played so poorly. Hangs around Denver all summer to be with the young guys, to build chemistry with the second unit. And he has looked phenomenal so far this year. So I think they have it in terms of their backcourt. Christian Brown was there last year. He's a better player now. And then between Peyton Watson, Julian Strawther, Justin Holiday, they have guys that they can throw in, especially in a regular season. But what's their front court depth? Last year they had Jeff Green. Now you have Zeke Naji has had a pretty rough start to this season. They gave him a big contract expecting him to be good. They've had to go to Aaron Gordon as backup center. They don't like to do that in the regular season. They had to do it multiple times. So to me, in volume of players, I think they have 8 guys they can trust in the playoffs, but they don't have them spread out positionally in the way they need. And I'm worried that they're not going to have a backup big to just buy them 5, 6, 7 minutes in a playoffs when they get there.
Thinking about the young guys, could you give me an idea of your confidence level, like how you would rank those young players, like Christian Brown, Jalen Pickett, Julian Strawther, Peyton Watson? Like, how do you see those guys in terms of your confidence?
Christian Brown, I have a lot of confidence in because he has a skill that is at an elite level. He's an elite defender, even as a rookie. He's very disciplined. He's one of the most disciplined defenders in the league, especially for a second-year guy. And he has length and strength. So I know he can do something on the court at a high level. And he did it in the playoffs, by the way. He had Game 3 was called the Christian Brown game because of how great he was in the NBA Finals. So he's, to me, full circle of trust. Julian Strawther and Peyton Watson, I would say, are on schedule to being there by the end of the year in a limited capacity. If you're counting on those guys, like if there's an injury, okay, no, they're not ready to go and step up into a 20-minute per game role. But if you talk about a playoffs, you need guys to go out there and give you defense or give you shooting or whatever it is they specialize in for 3 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever it is. I think they're on pace to becoming players that you can trust to do that.
Okay.
So Michael Porter Jr. just had a season high of 30 points, 30, 10, and 5 against the Houston Rockets. He's been great on the boards as well, just having a great season. What have you noticed that's different about him this year?
Well, he hasn't shot the ball particularly well. So he had an interesting, which is funny because I think he's shooting 40%, but for Michael Porter, that's actually rough. He rolled his ankle in training camp, I think on day 2 of training camp. And I felt so bad for him because Michael Porter's a guy that was coming back from injury last year. And all year kind of filled in a lower role because he knew, like, look, I'm coming back from injury. Murray's back, where am I on the pecking order? And he accepted that. This felt like a year where he was going to reestablish himself as a guy that actually can win you games. Rolls his ankle on the second day of camp, a grade 3 sprain, which is, a pretty bad one, same as De'Aaron Fox suffered. And he misses all of training camp and preseason, or almost all of preseason. So he's been off to a rough shooting start. He talked last night about how this injury still gives him poor balance, and he's still working through the balance portion of this and getting stronger every day, but he expects it won't be till January that he feels 100%. So his shooting has been a little bit rough. And I feel bad for him, but he has lately started to shoot the ball well. I think the 30-point game was something of a breakout for him. I think it was an important game for him to kind of have a high volume scoring night. We call him Porter quarters when he has like an outburst, because if he hits 2 in a row, he's hitting 5 in a row. And we haven't really had a Porter quarter this year until this last game when he started to go off. So hopefully it's a sign of things to come.
I noticed that Jokic is averaging career high in points. And we've always heard about Jokic, like that's not really what he wants to do, like not really where he's comfortable. Do you think that's just a factor of Jamal Murray being out? Because it's even more points than he was scoring that season, when Jamal Murray was out the whole time. Is that part of the reason why he's so frustrated, why he's getting those texts?
No, I don't think so. This is a really interesting question because I think it's the most interesting thing that's not being discussed widely about the Denver Nuggets.
Mm-hmm.
We joked early on that this was Jokic's Wilt year. Wilt loved to score, but one year he said, screw it, I'm going to go lead the league in assists just as a challenge.
Yeah.
We feel like maybe Jokic's trying to lead the league in scoring just as a challenge to be like, passing's too easy. But no, I in all sincerity, Jokic was asked a year or maybe it was 2 years ago if you would rather have a game-winning assist or a game-winning shot. And he shocked the world by saying a game-winning shot.
Yeah.
And this is something that I don't think he would have said 7 years ago. Like when he came into the league, he liked passing. He didn't really like scoring. As time has gone on, I think Jokic has sort of, I don't want to say fallen in love. That's too strong. But I think he has started to enjoy scoring more and views himself more as a scorer. And this year is the epitome of it. He's up to almost 30 points a game. He's shooting a lot. He's being so aggressive. I don't think there's a single quarter this year where you would say, he's being a little passive. He's setting the table this quarter. He's looking to score at all times. And this was even before Murray went down. He was doing this. It's ramped up since Murray went down. But I think there's something to Jokic is evolving as a player every year. That's why his scoring numbers have gone up. And I don't know that it's necessarily going to go down. I think he views himself as a dominant scorer now, and he's using that to his advantage.
That's super interesting. So the idea that he's like embracing this rather than he's just doing this out of necessity because of, changes to the roster.
And maybe he likes it, right? And that's the weird part is maybe he's like, what? Scoring's more fun. He always has that line, passing makes 2 players happy, scoring makes 1. Mm-hmm. I wonder if he's kind of like, but it makes me really happy. So maybe it's worth it.
Well, Adam, thank you for answering all our questions about the Nuggets. It is now time to play Andrew versus the Beat, Nuggets edition. Now, you've played this before. It's our weekly trivia show where Andrew goes head-to-head against an NBA beat writer. This week, of course, Adam Mares. Now, Adam, I have 8 questions that are about the Nuggets or Nuggets adjacent. You'll choose a number between 1 and 8. It'll correspond to a question. If you get it right, you'll get at least 2 points. If you get it wrong, Andrew will have a chance to steal. Now, we will go back and forth until all the questions have been asked and answered. So what number would you like to start with?
Let's start with number 1.
Question number 1. Jokic leads the Nuggets in total rebounds and assists. There are only 3 other players in the NBA who also lead their teams in total rebounds and assists. How many can you name? And you get 1 point per correct answer.
In rebounds and assists, you said?
Yeah, total rebounds and assists. They lead their teams.
Oh, man, that is a tough one.
There's 4 guys total. One is Jokic, of course.
4 guys. Am I going to get any of these?
Other 3.
I know.
Because Luka has like some bigs around him. Well, I mean, I'll start with Luka then. I know he's leading an assist.
Adam, that is correct for 1 point.
You're
on the board.
Don't overthink this. All right, let's go with. Man, this is too tough.
How many more are there?
What's that?
There are 2 more.
Yeah, there are two more. Yeah, 2 more names.
Is LeBron on the list?
LeBron is not on the
I didn't
list.
think he doesn't rebound like that.
Andrew, you have a chance to steal 2 points. You can name the other 2 guys.
There are a couple guys I'm thinking about.
Okay.
One, I'm pretty sure Paolo Banchero.
That is correct, Andrew.
Oh, man,
I thought
that's a
that
good
was
one.
the one you would not get.
Least likely to get. That's a good one.
I think I also think about Şengün, but I
Mm-hmm.
feel like Van Vliet might have assists over him. So I won't.
Oh,
Is it Sabonis?
It is Sabonis.
Yeah,
Domantas
it is.
Sabonis.
Yeah.
All right, Andrew.
I'm so bad at this game.
Number 2.
Question number 2. 3 players have scored more than 25 points in a game this season for the Nuggets. Name all 3. This question became much easier after our conversations. But you do have to
3
name all 3. You're not getting 3 points. You're only getting 2 points. You have to name all 3 guys.
All
That's
3 guys
too
that
easy.
have scored more than 25 points in a game.
Yeah, for the Nuggets this season.
Oh, this feels tricky. Then there's Reggie Jackson, Jokic, and MPJ.
Yeah.
Man, this was too easy. We mentioned them both on the.
I know. Now that I'm reading, I was like, wow, that really was. That's maybe the most gimme question I've ever had.
It's just wild.
Okay.
Like that's the.
I know
that's the
that was the question. Yeah,
Yeah,
basically.
cheating on it again. I get it.
All right, Adam.
Let's go to number 4.
Okay. Now this one might be right up your alley. There's a lot of talk about the Pistons right now, who have lost 15 games. That's actually 16 games in a row. The
16,
NBA
yeah.
record is 26 losses in a row, a record shared by the 2014 Sixers and the 2011 Cavs. But did you know the third longest losing streak in NBA history is 23 games, a streak held by the 1997-98 Denver Nuggets? The question is, literally name 2 players from the 97-98
Oh
Denver
my
Nuggets.
word.
Any 2, and you get the points.
Mahmoud is on the team because I remember him cooking Jordan's Bulls. No, Mahmoud. I mean Chris Jackson. Mahmoud. I remember that year because they beat the Chicago Bulls and he went off for like 40 points. Is he not on the list?
I do not see him on the list, Adam. Let me see when he must have been the year before.
Maybe the 96 when they would have beat the Bulls. Man, the longer
Possibly.
losing streak was the year after. Maybe. Damn.
No, that was he was on the 95-96 35 win Denver Nuggets.
Yeah. All righty. Well, then I get this one wrong too.
Andrew.
I could probably name more. I just was so certain of him.
Yeah, I mean, I have nothing.
You got
Nobody from this team?
Nobody old Nuggets, Andrew?
No,
Really
I mean
old
at that age, like I just
don't use that as an excuse. You are plenty old.
my conscious.
in
Like,
6th
I know,
grade.
yeah, I was just thinking about like Shaq and the Bulls and the Pacers at the time. You know, I don't think that the Nuggets ever even crossed my mind as an NBA fan then.
Oh man,
I mean,
that's kind of harsh.
The only names you would have even had a chance to get probably, Andrew, was Bobby Jackson and Tony Battie.
Alfonso Ellis is like the mainstay of that
Alfonso
era.
Ellis.
Oh, Alfonso Ellis. Yeah.
you'd have gotten him.
Eric Williams, Johnny Newman, Corey Alexander, Danny Fortson,
Oh, Danny Forts.
Anthony
That's a rough one.
Goldwire, Keywan Lamoris Garris.
Yeah.
Anything?
The sad thing is this whole era of Nuggets basketball runs together because they were all the same season, just different players. But they won between 11 and 30 games every single year for a while.
Yeah.
A different
Andrew.
coach every year too, by the way.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Ugh. Well, that's why we don't remember. Andrew, where would you like to go next?
Number 3.
Question number 3. 76% of PJ Tucker's shots are corner threes, which is the highest percentage in the NBA. This Denver Nugget has the second highest percentage, with 46% of their shots being corner threes. Who is it?
Oh, this is such an interesting question. God, corner threes.
Corner three specialist, you might say. Although I don't know what he's shooting on them. It's a limited player. I mean, is it Peyton Watson? I don't know. That is incorrect, Andrew. Adam, do you have a guess?
It's got to be KCP, I would imagine.
It is not KCP.
What?
Would you believe it's Justin Holiday shooting?
Oh man, he's taking like
7%
11 shots.
He may not have taken a lot, but he qualified on cleaning the glass.
There you go. All right.
I'm allowed to ask it.
I think he's played 2
Okay,
games.
Adam, the board
Let's
is
go.
yours. 4 questions left.
Let's go to number 8. I think I'm setting a record. I've never gotten a question right on the show, so let's keep it going. Number 8.
Okay, this is a fun one. Julian Strawther hit 5 3-pointers in a November game against the Pelicans. Strawther is only the 9th Nuggets rookie to have a game with at least 5 3-pointers, and we're going to name the other 8. So how this works, Adam, you're going to give me a name, then Andrew will give me a name, and we'll go back and forth until one of you stumbles.
It's got to be Michael Porter. I feel like for sure he hit 5 his first year. He had some crazy games.
That is correct. Michael Porter is on the list. Andrew.
Did Melo do it?
Carmelo Anthony also on the list. So these are Nuggets rookies who had a game with at least 5 3-pointers.
I mean, you got to think it's more modern era players. So I'm going to go with Jamal Murray.
That is correct. He's on the list. Back to Andrew.
How many more are there?
There are 5 names.
That feels impossible to me. Oh, goodness. I mean, there's just
I have one.
There's rookies that just keep hitting my brain that I'm just like, I just don't know. They had the chance to actually do this
Right.
as a rookie.
I think I got 2 more.
Ooh. Adam's getting confident.
Put the pressure on.
I don't think I can't get this name out of my brain, and I'm just gonna say it just because it's just there. And I know that he had the opportunity to do it, but I don't know that he has the ability to do it, which makes me feel so dumb. Emmanuel Mudiay.
No, he did not have the ability to do that.
He had the opportunity, but did not.
He did have the opportunity. I think he played the most minutes that season. Adam, what were your other guesses? I mean, you already got 2 points. You got 2 points.
I would have guessed Ty Lawson because I remember he had some crazy 3-point shooting games.
Ooh.
He did not do it. The other 5 names: Bones Highland.
Oh, that just yeah. For
James Posey.
Surprising. They had the shortened line in his rookie year.
Yakuba Diawara.
Yakuba Diawara hit 5 threes. That was the only 5 threes he ever hit.
That's wild.
Juancho Hernan Gomez.
The Juancho game. Yeah, he had him.
And then Campazzo.
Campazzo.
This is a tough list, man.
I know.
That was a really tough list.
I don't feel as bad. I felt real dumb after I said Mudiay. It was wrong. I don't feel quite as bad.
Hey, way better shooter than Yakuba Diawara.
Well, folks, we have a game on our hands. It is now 4-3. Andrew, you have control of the board.
Oh, boy. Okay, number 5.
Question number 5. There are only 4 Denver Nuggets who have attempted at least 6 3-pointers per game while making at least 38% of those threes. 2 are Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray. Who are the other 2? And you get 1 point per correct answer. So this is over a full season. They attempted at least 6 threes per game and made at least 38%. So high volume 3-point shooters in Nuggets history.
God, that's tough. Because it has to be like modern era Nuggets. Because I would like Melo is not going to be an answer of mine, I don't think.
Are you looking at my face to see if I changed? Because it didn't. Kind of. I'm not giving you any clues.
Gosh, that's really tough. 6 threes is a lot of threes per game.
There's a lot of threes.
I don't know if this player did this or not. I don't think he takes that many because he kind of likes.
I like when you whisper to yourself your thought process.
I am an insane person, I think. What about Will Barton?
Will the Thrill Barton? Andrew, that is incorrect. This means, Adam, you could steal 2 points here.
Man, I was going to go a little more bold now. Now I'm nervous about this. I was going to say Dale Ellis just because he played in that. I know he's in the top all-time leaderboard in Nuggets history. So I'm going to go Dale Ellis.
He is up there in the leaderboard, but he did never do this, unfortunately.
He was there in 97 or whatever when the line was short. So I was like, okay, maybe he took a bunch of threes because they were short threes.
Oh, you know what? Great guess. In the 96-97 season, took 6.4 per game, but only shot 36.4%.
Oh, come on.
Wow.
Man.
So the other two names, the
Ugh.
one I thought you might get, J.R. Smith
Yeah.
did it.
Yeah.
And then the other name I have a feeling you would have never gotten, Randy Foy did it once upon a time.
Oh.
Very
There
impressive.
you go.
Okay, Adam, you could move ahead here if you get it right. Question 6 or
Shout out.
question 7?
Shout out to
Let's go
Randy.
number 6. Let's go number 6.
All right, it is the year 2023, and DeAndre Jordan is putting up 21 and 13 in an NBA game. Wow. Was that DeAndre's career high in points? No, you tell me. What is DeAndre Jordan's career high in points in a game? Now, before you answer, Adam, you get to choose who answers first. So you can make Andrew answer first, and then you go higher or lower, or you can answer first. But if either of you get it exact, you get a bonus point. So a
man.
little risk.
Andrew gets to go first. I think that's by far the statistically smarter decision. Make
Okay,
him guess
Andrew.
first.
29.
That's such
Andrew,
a-
Andrew has set the bar at 29 points for DeAndre Jordan's career high.
I feel like you asked this because it's lower than you would expect.
Mm.
But I'm going to go over just because it seems like he had 15 dunks once in the Lob City era. So I'll go over.
Well, I will let you know before I give you the answer that Andrew got within 1 point of the correct answer. And the correct answer was 30, which means Adam gets the 2 points and has moved ahead of Andrew going into
Let's
the
go.
final question.
Oh,
Andrew.
Oh,
man.
that was
Andrew,
brutal. That
you
was
have
brutal.
to get this question to win the week.
Okay.
If you get it
Okay.
wrong, it's over. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Rocky, the Nuggets mascot, is a mountain lion. According to A to Z Animals.com, my
Oh, no
number one
wonder.
source for animal facts, how fast can a mountain lion run? I'm going to give you 5 options, and you're going to tell me which one is correct. How fast can a mountain lion run? Is it 20 miles per hour, 30 miles per hour, 40, 50, or 60? This is to win the week, Andrew. You have to tell me how fast a mountain lion can run. Is it 20, 30, 40, 50, or 60 miles per hour?
I just have no context for speed of cats.
And it's showing.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it is showing. I'll just say 30. I have no clue.
The correct answer for how fast a mountain lion can run is 50 miles per hour, which means Adam wins the week 5-4.
Yeah.
Wow.
Uh,
On your
this-
animal facts, Andrew.
This is his own Scissor Tail Park here, I feel.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Total meltdown.
Total meltdown. Man, I cannot believe I just lost on a cat speed question. Hey, go follow Adam on Twitter at Adam_Mares. Go check out DNVR. They do great stuff. Audio, video, all of that. Go follow them on YouTube. Listen to their podcast. It's great stuff. Thanks so much for coming on, Adam.
Good to see you guys. Thanks so much.
Okay, Andrew, that was 2 weeks of Denver
Ooh.
Nuggets. 2 weeks, double week.
A lot of bad nuggets.
I know, unfortunately. Okay, so we have 25 teams remaining.
Yeah.
Obviously, a ton of teams left. So we're going to spin the wheel of fandom and see who's going to be our team for next week. So let's spin the wheel and see who we get. This week's Wheel of Fandom team will be the Chicago Bulls. The Chicago Bulls. Okay, so we heard today from
Yeah,
Shams. Shams reported that Zach LaVine is going to be out for at least a week with right foot soreness. DeRozan missed the game last night. So we might be getting it might just be a week talking about Alex Caruso, perhaps.
Wow.
But Andrew, on the other hand, what if we get a trade this week?
Hey, if they lose every game this week, we are doing a trade machine only Chicago Bulls pod.
They only have 2 games too.
I know.
They play the Pelicans on
Yep.
Saturday and they play Charlotte on Wednesday.
Okay.
If anyone ever
Well, there you
doubts that
go.
we
If they,
make
and
up,
in fact, that's the thing. If they lose to Charlotte, if that actually happens,
yeah,
trade machine only pod. It's happening.
trade machine only.
Yep.
You don't want to go in depth on Patrick Williams? I feel like that's what we do every time we get the Bulls.
No, not happening. If they do pull out a win, we will talk a little bit about what happens on the court with them. Otherwise, not happening. Absolutely not happening. Hey, you can leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, and we'll read it on the show, just like this one from at MC2020202. He gives us 5 stars. He says, this Saturday pod has earned its 5 stars, and I'm stingy. One of the few pods in which the hosts, including weekly guests, clearly watch basketball. If that sounds like damning faint praise, it isn't. So much NBA coverage is just an echo chamber. And I don't have the time/interest to hear from people just parroting cliches. As an NBA addict with no team affiliation, I love the structure created by the Team of the Week bit. You guys are doing something rare right now in providing unique and circumspect analysis while incorporating some genuine laughs. This is one of only 3 pods I now recommend. Great work, staff. Wow. That's one of the nicest reviews
That was very nice. Thank you.
I have ever read. This one comes from a name that is unreadable. It's just like random letters and numbers and like slashes and semicolons.
Sounds cool.
It's pretty cool. They're in the US. It said Slam and Jam is a great NBA show. Great NBA show, terrific guests from each city. The review of games played in the preceding week is entertaining if you enjoy the game. Thank you so much for that. Next one comes from Canada, from Steph Janum1234. I've enjoyed the Slam and Jam since its inception and look forward to it every week, so much so that I listened to the most recent episode while floating in the Caribbean Sea. Wow.
Oh, wow. Big brag.
Big brag.
Thanks.
And we appreciate you listening. Always a good time and love the content. Thank you for that review. Just a couple more from OK Meyer in the US of A. Slam and Jam in particular is a great show. I've always been a fan of Andrew and Alex, but the quality, depth, and fun generated by their show is an incredible addition to the pods here. Thanks to them for the blood, sweat, and tears. Happy Thanksgiving. Thank you so much for that. And then from Red Sox Rebert, Slam and Jam 6 stars, he says. All the pods are great, but Slam and Jam gets a 6-star rating. Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you so much for that. Hope you guys
treat.
enjoy all the basketball this weekend. We got the in-season tournament coming up next week. It's going to be a blast. We will have coverage for you from Las Vegas. So we will bring that to you in forms of video and audio and all of that. We'll talk to you guys again next week.